All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rekach Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops, a great millstone on your brother, Rabbi Nab, coming out with a lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying to the Lord's elect. So I went on Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, her X account, and this is what she posted on pretty much yesterday. It says, this is 100% where the base is. We started 2025 with an American First electoral mandate and are ending the year with absolute rage and Trump voters planning a 2026 tax revolt. So let's see what this gentleman has to say.
We are being lied to. Not only are we being lied to, we're being exploited at the highest degree. And then on top of it, we're being replaced with the dollars that we work our fucking asses off to produce for our families. They are taking those dollars, they are bringing in people that fucking hate us, and then they are paying them to be here. And if that doesn't piss you the fuck off, dude, I don't know what will. Because I'm gonna tell you this, dude, I've worked my fucking ass off for damn near 30 motherfucking years trying to create jobs and careers and build income and wealth and done all this shit. And these motherfuckers are opening up a daycare and getting 10 million fucking dollars? This is fucking insane, dude. And
with no kids.
If this isn't the breaking point for everybody to stand the fuck up and say enough, then our country is fucking doomed. Period. Okay? Donald Trump needs to feel all the fucking smoke over this. All of it. Okay? He needs to feel all of it over Israel. He needs to understand that he is violating the promises that he has made to the American people. Okay? I've always been a guy that has given that man tons and tons and tons of benefit of the doubt. But at this point in time, that shit is fucking over. And every single motherfucker that ever voted for him or stood with him needs to let him fucking know. He needs to let him hear it. Because, dude, I'm telling you right now, if he doesn't do something about this, and he doesn't start arresting motherfuckers, and he doesn't hold people accountable for the Epstein shit, and for this shit, and for all the fraud, and all the raping that's been going on in the American taxpayer for fucking decades, he will go down, and not as the best president, he will go down literally as the man who had the opportunity to save this country and chose not to.
So as you can see, some of his base is pissed off. This is real as fuck with Andy.
We are being lied to.
I'm gonna look. I like Andy. Andy, you all right with me, man? You all right with me? I'm gonna have to follow you. It says live every Monday, Thursday at 8 a.m. Personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. I'm signing up for that because, he actually makes sense. You voted for something, you probably really went to the ballot and thought, we needed a drastic change, and you thought you were doing a good thing, and now you see it's the same shit, just a different face on it, man. And that's what Esau is, man. And the people who voted for him, a lot of them think that he was going to be the one that was going to change things around. But this is why it's important we know the scriptures. Let me just grab this precept real quick while it comes to mind. But I like how Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this on her X account, because it's like you co-signed this. She said this is where the base is, because she just fell out of the Republican Party. So there's other people that are not really aligned with him. And she's being around women who are claiming to have been trafficked, pretty much. So she's hearing stories straight out of the mouths of these women. So she probably has a different perspective on, what she's witnessed. And someone like that, he's not even within the party. He's just being affected by what he sees. But there's people that are close to him that know a lot more, and all these things are going to be revealed. And I'm glad he said something about the Epstein's files and all of that. That's just, none of that really, this place is going to be destroyed anyways. Jeremiah 51. I'll start at the top. And 1, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind, which is thermonuclear missiles. Babylon is America. and will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. So these Babylonian fanners are these different nations that have thermonuclear capability. So when Russia, or the Medes, or Gog, sends those missiles, or he gets the idea in his mind, according to Ezekiel the 38th chapter, to come up against the land of unwalled villages, which is another code word for America, and he bombs this place, his allies are also gonna follow suit. So imagine creating a fire, and then other people are throwing more wood into that fire. That's these other nations, North Korea, Iran, Turkey. In the scriptures they call Gomer, the Persians, the Medes, and other nuclear capable countries, as well as his allies, according to Obadiah. They're going to switch up on him, according to Revelation 17 also. Jeremiah 51:3, against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. So against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. So the modern day bow and arrow are those thermonuclear missiles. And against him that lifteth up himself up in his brigandine. The brigandine is your armor. You lifting up yourself in your defenses, your military. And spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Your host is your army. So the Lord is causing this to happen. Because why? Because of what happened to his children, the nation of Israel. Not those small hats in the land today. It's actually the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that you so-called white people killed, raped, robbed, murder, stole their land, and you complaining about the land you stole from them. Yeah, you got to pay for those sins that your forefathers did. But that's another. There's plenty of precepts on that. But you gotta know the scriptures. Jeremiah 51:4. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. So the Chaldeans are the elites of Babylon. Okay, but in that time, let's look it up. They were sorcerers. Okay, they were pretty much. Let's see what it says. AI overview. Chaldeans refer to two distinct groups, an ancient Mesopotamian people known for establishing the Neo-Babylon Empire and their advancements in astronomy and mathematics in modern-day Aramaic-speaking Eastern Catholic Christian community, primarily from Iraq, who maintain a distinct identity and are united with the Roman Catholic Church with significant populations in the U.S. This is getting, I never heard explained in this way. I wonder where he's getting it from. The modern community adopted the historical name, linking their identity to the ancient civilization while preserving their unique language, traditions, and faith, often emphasizing their pre-Islamic heritage. Chaldeans were sorcerers. Let's see what comes up. Yes, Chaldeans were famously associated with magic, sorcery, and astrology, particularly by the Persians and Greeks, who viewed their priests as masters of divination, incantations, and celestial observation, a perception also reflected in biblical texts like the Book of Daniel. Though their practices involve sophisticated astronomy, demonology, and healing rituals linked to Mesopotamia tradition. So long story short, the modern day Chaldeans are the Edomites, or the elites, and they use sorcery, they use witchcraft, they use all these ancient customs, just like Babylon. Okay, so it's not just ancient Babylon and we just blowing smoke up your ass. That's what they actually do. And so the Lord's on point with these scriptures. Jeremiah 51:5, for Israel have not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God. Israel is the northern kingdom and Judah is the southern kingdom. They haven't been forsaken. Okay, so when you say God loves everyone, you're basically saying the Lord forsook his people. Okay, of the Lord of hosts, okay, the Lord of armies. Though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel, it was filled with sin. That's why the original inhabitants of that land got kicked out. The northern kingdom first in 722 BC by the Assyrians, and then I think 586 BC. Let me see if that's the right date. 586 BC. Let's see what pops up. The year 586 BC is historically significant for the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem. So there you go. So 722 BC is when the northern kingdom got taken out by the Assyrians, went into Mesopotamia, and then they came over here into this land, all the way up to the point where 1492, when Christopher Columbus came over here and with the sword and spreading this false Christianity that you worship today. And then in 586 BC, what happened there, the Babylonians, but then we returned under the Persian captivity, and then all the way up in 70 AD when the Romans sacked the Second Temple. That's when the Southern Kingdom were scattered and went into the inner parts of Africa and other areas, but most notably there. And what happened there, transatlantic slave trade, hence we're back in Egypt again because of Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. Jeremiah 51:6, flee out of the midst of Babylon. So it's not just Babylon, it's Egypt, it's Sodom and Gomorrah, it's Assyria, it's Nineveh, it's all of it, okay? Because this is the most wicked kingdom. This is that sinful kingdom, and he's all of these wicked kingdoms combined in one. So this is why this is mystery Babylon. When you read about Revelation, the 18th chapter, you don't think the Lord spoke about a kingdom that's going to be as rich as Babylon, as America? Come on, man, you got to have sense, but a lot of y'all don't. Okay, so flee out of the midst of Babylon, Jeremiah 51:6, which is America, and deliver every man his soul, be not cut off in her iniquity. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. When you read Daniel, the 5th chapter, it shows you that there was a surgical strike. Belshazzar was drinking, and then what happened? Darius the Mede came and took him out, right? There was the handwriting on the wall. It wasn't utterly destroyed by the Lord's vengeance. Okay, it was a surgical strike, and it was a pretty easy transition. But this Babylon that he's talking about, like we read in Jeremiah 51:1, is going to be destroyed with a destroying wind, which is thermonuclear missiles. That didn't happen to ancient Babylon, because ancient Babylon still exists in modern day Iraq, I believe. Let me just double check. It's ancient Babylon, modern day Iraq. Avalon. Babylon. Babylon, the legendary ancient city, is located in modern day Iraq. So just like I said, Jeremiah 51:7, Babylon had been a golden cup, Salakia. He will render unto her a recompense. I forgot to say that. So he's rendering unto her a recompense. He's paying back Babylon for what they did to the nation of Israel. Jeremiah 51:7, Babylon, and what did they do to him? They put him in slavery. Esau has constantly been oppressing Israel, going all the way back to 70 AD. Before that, what he did to all the Native Americans, the so-called Latino people when he came over here, who are Israelites, he got to pay for all of that. He hasn't paid for any of these things. Okay, so it's kind of funny that you think that you can establish a nation on iniquity and think that you're going to prosper. That's not what the Bible doesn't say. Wickedness makes you prosper, right? So there's a recompense for that, for all the wickedness that he's done. Now, when you read verses like Ecclesiastes, the 8th chapter, it talks about how sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. Therefore, the hearts of the Son of Men are fully set in their selves to do evil, roughly paraphrasing. So when you don't get punished for rape, rob, and murder, you think you can get away with it all the time. You think you can get away with it on a global scale. So now it's inherently in you to be fully wicked. And that's increasing the sins that you're committing, reaching to the point where the Lord's going to take you out of power. And then who's after you? The nation of Israel, okay? That's going into an everlasting rulership. All right, where did I want to go? Jeremiah 51:7, Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand and made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Just like that gentleman, he's mad. He drunk all the wine of Babylon. Okay, he thought it was going to be fixed. He thought this place, if it just had the right leader, America can be what it was in the 50s, and it can work all over again. Where he filled you up with that cup of lies. Ultimately, it's blasphemy. The whole religion process is fake. It's all false religions. You don't see wickedness rampant. You ain't talking about that. You more concerned about you like wickedness. You're drunk. You know, when somebody's drunk, man, you can't really talk to them anymore. It's like they need to wake up. They need to get some sleep. They need to go home. They need to sober up and then, you know, accept what's being said to them. But y'all can't do that. You just continue to drink of the cup all the way up to the point where the cup's running out. The cup it's over with. People are waking up. Other nations are waking up to this bullshit. You know, his different policies he implemented all over the world. And now, you know, y'all are starting to wake up to some of the wickedness that's being revealed, because his power is failing. You had no problem. He's been doing this since the 50s, and he's always been doing this. This is how this country was established. You ain't crying about that. You ain't saying nothing about the people who were kidnapped and brought here. You talk shit about those people. You call them niggas and all types of shit. Okay? But that's because of this devil. He had the power to set up crooked leaders and not feed them, not tell them who they are. You steal somebody's nationality away from them, and they don't know which way they're going. You pretty much create a demon. You create someone. He's deaf. If you don't know who you are, you're dead. You don't know nothing about your old language, where you came from, and you calling yourself a fucking color out of a crayon box, man. You through. But then when the Lord gives you back your nationality, and you can't receive it anymore, then you got to get put to death. But the people who did it to you, he gonna give them a recompense, which are you Edomites. Jeremiah 51:7 again, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. So take balm like a ointment. You scrape your knee, put some ointment on it. It's supposed to help it heal better, right? So in a spiritual sense or in a physical sense, he tried to stimulate the economy. He's tried to bring back jobs to this place. Where's those jobs, these manufacturing jobs that were supposed to come back? They're still not here. You know how long it'll take for them to relocate here? That's never gonna happen. That was a lie. Okay? Getting rid of cheap labor is how this country got built. So he got you thinking the people who helped build this place is the problem now, when the actual problem is himself robbing, stealing, and robbing you, and got you blaming it on these people over here, which he's been running that plan. If you look at how wicked your damn history is, all you got to do is go back and see you're dealing with you should know you're a damn Edomite, man. Look at your history, man. Yeah, he's robbing you. Jeremiah 51:9, we would have healed Babylon, which is America. He would have healed it. He says he's going to make America great, right? But he hasn't, right? But she is not healed, so it's not healed. It's not going to be healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. There's going to be a great forsaking of Babylon, especially as we get closer to these draconian policies that he's going to implement. Some people are already leaving. That's why you got things like the passport bros, because the women here, you can't even, good luck. You deal with a woman now, you pretty much just joined the basketball team. When you're at work, she's sleeping with somebody else, and she got them at her disposal. She got this right here. She probably talking about 50 different people, man. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the sky. So the judgment, those sins, there's a certain measure that the Lord's waiting for, and he's gonna destroy this place. So that's what they're complaining about. But having a tax revolt is not the way to go. Matthew 22 and 15. Then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk, and he's talking about Yahweh Shai. And they sent who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. His name is Yahweh Shai. Matthew 22:16. And they sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true, and teachest the way of God in truth. Neither carest thou for any man, for thou regardest not the person of men. Tell us therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? So all this tax revolt, he didn't really get into it, but the whole, I'm trying to explain it. He hit some key points, but it's kind of going viral on X because people are pointing out the fact that you could what's the daycare in Minnesota? People are setting up daycares and making tens of millions of dollars. Meanwhile, you're working your ass off and you can barely afford to get by. So, you know, people are mad about that, but it's like, why am I paying tax money to somebody like that? Well, the system always worked like that. The fools who go to work all the time pay the ones who are robbing them. That's how the system was created. But Yahushua perceived their wickedness and said, why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? So is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar, like paying your taxes? And he's like, why you tempting me, you hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. And he saith unto them, whose is this image in superscription? They say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. When they had heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. So they try to entangle him in saying the wrong thing. Because if he said anything other than what he said, they could have entangled him with that. But see, he was operating in wisdom that was much higher than him. So, but the here when he says render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, you got to pay your taxes, man. You know, so a lot of people, they're gonna fall to the fact that, you know, listening to people like this. This is why you got to know the scriptures. I'm trying to think of this precept. I feel like Gamaliel was saying something to somebody. Acts 5. And Gamaliel's counsel, yeah. Acts 5 verse 33. When they heard that, they were cut to the heart and took counsel to slay them. I believe this is talking about Peter. Let me look this up real quick just to get my I forgot. I think it was Peter and who was it? Describes the intense rage of the Jewish council, which is the Israelite council. There's no such thing as Jewish council. Sanhedrin. Okay, which is talking about the Sadducees and Pharisees, I believe. Let's look up this word, Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin was the supreme Israelite council and court in ancient Israel, functioning as the highest religious and judicial body with political authority, composed of about 70 to 71 elders, rabbis, priests, scribes, who met in Jerusalem and handled legal, administrative, and religious matters, notably presiding over trials like that of Yahushua before its eventual decline after the temple's destruction, with its rules detailed in the Talmudic tractate Sanhedrin. Lies. Fucking lies. So it's referring to the Sadducees and Pharisees. Acts 5 verse 34. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. So I believe, like I said, I believe it's talking about Peter. Okay, because they were teaching. And they end up getting locked up. Ananias and Sapphira. Salak. Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. I forgot the other person he was with, though. Acts 5 verse 35. But Gamaliel was giving counsel to these people. Okay, and said unto them, ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men. For before these days rose up Theudas, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Eudes. Let me see how you pronounce that.
Strong's G 2333. Thudas.
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 Okay. It says the name of an insurgent mentioned in Gamaliel's speech before the Israelite council. At the time of the arrangement of the apostles, he appeared, according to Luke's account, at the head of about 400 men. He was probably one of the insurrectionary chiefs or fanatics by whom the land was overrun in the last year of Herod's reign. Josephus speaks of Thudas, who played a similar part at the time of Claudius about AD 44. But the Thudas mentioned by Luke must be a different person from the one spoken of by Josephus, whatever. That's what it says. I just wanted to know how to pronounce it. Acts 5 verse 36, for before these days rose up Thudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all as many as obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught. So you got to watch out. You know, Thudas, it doesn't explain what he did, but let's keep going. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. So you got to watch out. You got to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. People gonna, the taxing, these different laws that are coming about, people are gonna get mad about that. There was a recent, I'm trying to think of this lady in Chicago. Let me see if I can find it. Lady in Chicago speaks to a council about taxes. She said, we won't pay our taxes, Chicago resident demands, 1 week ago. Let's see what she says. Let's get into this. December 24th.
I had a crazy idea. We were surprised that no one had done it before.
Success.
I guess $1 Million Tony couldn't make it today. She too busy loving her home she just got for $1 million, while we just received these high property tax bills. So we all here because of our property taxes. Some here, like Zoe and Miss Jessica, because y'all stealing black people property. So I just want to know, because we just came from the city council meeting. We coming there, and the city is blaming the county, and now you just blaming Springfield. And then when you, all these people, when they go to these town hall meetings and you send your puppets, they lie and they blame the invisible white man. Somehow they are pushing us out of our community. They want our property. They want black people property. They never say who it is. They just say, you know who they are. But when I come up in here, I see all black faces. I see Democrats. So are we talking about the Democrats are pushing black people out of their communities? The Democrats hate black people. The Democrats want our property and replace us with illegal aliens, because you all come in these meetings talking about the invisible white person, but we don't never see him, but we see all of you all here. And then you sit here, all these black faces, you sit here, all Democrats, and you sit here all arrogantly like your seats are secure, like we are not coming after these seats. Just like I told Brendan Johnson over there the first time I spoke on that mic, I said the same thing that's making y'all laugh in here gonna make y'all cry. And then you see what's happening. Same thing here. Now I'm giving y'all warning right here. The same thing that's making y'all laugh in here is gonna make y'all cry. Mark my words. See, y'all sit here too comfortable, thinking that everything, you know, black people stupid, that we don't understand what's going on, that we're going to vote blue no matter who, and all y'all got to do is use the race card. All y'all got to do is call white supremacy, the white man. But we're in a heavily Democratic city from top to bottom, state and city, all Democrats. So can we say that the Democrats are racist white men or white women? Who is it? Because this is what y'all telling us. So I'm letting you all know, Chicago flips red. We are not paying these taxes. We are calling for a boycott on these taxes. Nobody is playing this game no more. We won't pay our taxes until we get a forensic audit on where all our money is going. We're demanding that. We're asking President Trump to send the feds here.
30 seconds.
The DOJ here. We need a forensic audit on where our money is going. And we are not paying no property taxes. And we are calling for a boycott. And we're going around to every ward in the city and calling for it. You all gonna learn to stop playing with us, and you all gonna learn that you all work for us. And none of these seats secure. And we coming for those seats. And you can sit there like you sitting there, like you unbothered, all of you all. Yeah, but you getting up out of
Next
that.
speaker is Dennis.
So, you know, and that's pretty much what I'm trying to get into, you know. People's taxes, when you can't afford to live in your house anymore, you're going to be mad too. When you can't afford rent anymore, your rent going to get, everyone's going to get mad. It's going to go up. Okay? But a lot of people is going to take the fight. This is all by design, man. And this is what Gamaliel's counsel was getting into. Acts 5 verse 37. And he's saying to leave these men alone, talking about Peter, but I forgot, who did Peter get locked? Let me find out. Who did Peter get locked up with in Acts, the 5th chapter? I don't want to read the whole thing. I'm getting lazy. In Acts chapter 5, Peter was not locked up alone. He was imprisoned with all of the apostles. The relevant passage states they arrested the apostles and put them in the public prison. So it was more than one. I thought it names 2 people. Okay, the high priest and the Sadducees, filled with jealousy over the apostles' growing popularity and public miracles, ordered the arrest of the entire group. However, during the night, an angel of the Lord opened the prison doors and miraculously freed them. And then Gamaliel is getting into why you need to leave these men alone. And he's giving examples like Judas. And then he was going into Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. So let's look this up, because this is like Acts again, back in the time of Acts. It's the same thing, man. Acts 5 and 37 in the Bible refers to Judas the Galilean, a historical figure who led a failed revolt against Roman taxation during a census, illustrating Gamaliel's argument to the Sanhedrin that human-led movements opposing divine will ultimately collapse while God's work endures, warning them not to fight against God by persecuting the apostles. This verse highlights themes of resistance, failed leadership, and the contrast between earthly power and divine authority, showing that Judas's followers scattered after his death, unlike the enduring Christian movement. And the same thing's gonna happen now. Okay, it's like people being gathered away. This is why, you know, men, that the Lord sets up will, they'll be looking for things like this, man, and make videos to try to get it to who it needs to get to, so you can refrain from making the same mistakes, because it's all written. You don't need to make the same mistake, man. Just follow what the Lord told us to do. Now we know back then Peter got put to death. I mean, I don't know, how did Peter die? They don't tell you in the Bible, but maybe they'll say. How did Peter die? Beheaded, crucifixion. Oh yeah. Upside down. He was crucified upside down. So, where's that Bible verse? John 21 and 18. Let me go there real quick. John 21 and 18. Our times are in his hand. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, when thou wast young, thou girdest thyself and walkest whither thou wouldest. But when thou shalt be old, thou shalt stretch forth thy hands, and another shall gird thee and carry thee whither thou wouldest not. Ooh, yo, Yahweh Shai is amazing, man. He basically prophesied Peter's death. Damn, that just sent chills down my spine. Let me go in the Bible Hub real quick. The Bible Hub breaks this down right. I forgot how they broke it down. Bible Hub, let's go there. John 21, it said, I forgot how to use it. How do I, let's go to John 21, verses 18. Okay, context. How do I get the understanding? Truly, truly, I tell you, this phrase, often translated as verily, verily, or amen, amen, is used by Yahushua to emphasize the truth and importance of what he is about to say. It is a solemn affirmation indicating that the following statement is of great significance. This double affirmation is unique to the Gospel of John and underscores the authority of Yahushua's words. When you were young, you dressed yourself and walked where you wanted. This part of the verse reflects the freedom and independence associated with youth. I need a scholar breaking this down. Let's go to Ellicott's commentary for English readers. Okay, thou was young, literally, thou was younger. Peter must have been at this time in the middle age. Thou shalt stretch forth thy hands, and another shall gird thee. Do these words refer to the crucifixion of Peter? Tradition from Tertullian downwards, Scorp, he referenced some book, states that he was crucified, and interpreting this prophecy by the event asserts that they do. Tertullian himself so understands them, for he says, then is Peter girded by another when he is bound to the cross. But on the other hand, the girding with chains would precede, not follow the crucifixion. It would be more natural to speak of another stretching forth his hands if the nailing them to the cross is intended. The last clause, carry thee whither thou wouldest not, could not follow the stretching of the hands on the transverse beam of the cross. It seems impossible, therefore, to adopt a traditional reference to crucifixion, and we must take the word stretch forth thy hands as expressing symbolically the personal surrender previous to being girded by another. So what exact form of death the context does not specify. We have thus in the second pair of sentences, as in the first and third, a complete parallelism, the stretching forth of the hands being a part of the girding by another, and the whole being in contrast to thou girdest thyself. So I forgot which commentary I read. It's probably this other one, but it basically goes into the crucifixion of Peter. Now that it's coming back to me. John 21 in verse 19. This spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify God. So it tells you in the next verse. And when he had spoken this, he saith unto him, follow me. So, Peter got put to death, but at the same time, the reason I'm bringing that out, he didn't get put to death by following somebody else. He did it. He got put to death to glorify the Lord. Okay, at the end of the day. But now that we in this time, people are gonna die for the Lord, like it tells you in Revelation, the 20th chapter. But it's gonna be a great salvation too. Some people are not gonna taste of death, according to Mark, the 9th chapter. All right. But whether we die or whether we live, we do it for the Lord. Okay. So we're not afraid of these things, man. The Lord is giving us this. We don't have the spirit of fear. We want the Lord to be glorified in this time. But you can't glorify him if you're disobeying what he told you to do. You got to take the counsel. You got to know the word. Acts 5, verse 37, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of taxing and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men, and let them alone, for if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. So if you are doing the work of the will of the Heavenly Father, man, then it's going to endure. If you're not, it's going to come to naught. So you don't even need to do anything, is what he's telling this counsel against them. But if it be of God, ye cannot overthrow it, lest happily ye be found even to fight against God. And that's what you're doing when you come up against the apostles, okay, or the Lord's prophets. You know, or the word, you pretty much fighting against God. Okay, or ultimately you've been rejected. That's why you ain't accepting it, because you really just fighting against the Lord, and you're going to be destroyed. So you ain't going to win that battle anyways. Acts 5, verse 40, and to him they agreed. And when they had called the apostles and beaten them, they commanded that they should not speak in the name of Yahushua and let them go. And they're going, you can see that happening with us. You know, when they start implementing these freedom of speech laws come into pass and things like that, you're gonna have to. That's them telling you to not speak in this name. They're already paying people off. They're saying Most High, Christ bless. That's a way of don't speak in that name. So only the men of the Lord, according to John the 17th chapter, are going. That's how the Lord's gonna get his name, how he's gonna be glorified, through them. It tells you in John 17. Let's go there real quick. John 17 and verse 10, and all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. So it's going to be glorified in the elect of Israel. Okay, so the people who can't glorify their name is just because they're just not the elect. Now, some of the elect are going to wax stronger and stronger. They're going to get the name. They're going to come out of that mess. But if they don't, then that's just, it is what it is. Acts 5 and 41, and they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. So you got to be worthy to suffer shame for his name. And daily in the temple and in every house they ceased not to teach and preach Yahushua HaMashiach. So they were daily in the temple, man. They were going to, the apostles were no joke, man. They took this ministry very seriously. And that's probably an understatement. If you lose your head and being crucified upside down for this truth, it's an understatement how hard they went for the Lord. And through their works we can read about it, and we can still get fed off of it in these days too. But I had some more I want to get. This is Tax the Rich. Crowd erupts into chant during Bernie Sanders' speech. Sanders blasted claims that Mamdani has a radical agenda, arguing the wealthy should pay their fair share as chants of tax the rich erupted. So let's listen to this.
Lastly, and maybe most importantly, demanding that the wealthy and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. As I was saying, demanding that the wealthy and large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. It's not radical. It is exactly the right thing to do. Today, while over 60% of our people in New York, people in Vermont, people all over this country are living paycheck to paycheck, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. While tens of millions struggle to put food on the table, pay for health care, pay for housing, the top 1% have never, ever had it so good. And yet, there are billionaires and large corporations that pay almost nothing in taxes. That has got to end. That will end. The billionaire class in this city and in this country have got to understand that in America, they cannot have it all. That America, our great country, must belong to all of us, not just a few. And that lesson begins today in New York City. Let me thank you all for the hope and inspiration that you are giving people all over this country.
That's the burn right there, man. That's the burn right there. So, you know, that's more talking about these taxes, man. Let me grab this in the book of Second Entrance, the 15th chapter. Second Entrance 15. People are gonna get pissed off. People saying we ain't gonna pay our taxes. We ain't gonna listen. The feds are coming to get you once that happens. Believe that. Second Entrance 15. Especially if you just don't pay. You know, if you have the, I mean, he just takes your taxes right out your check. So a lot of you don't even have the ability not to pay. The only ones, people who own businesses and things like that. But what do you think's gonna happen, man? He can, if he can wage garnish student loans, what do you think he could do with your money, man? You put your money into his bank, you know, and if you don't pay, they're kicking in your door, man. Look at what's her name, Martha Stewart. What happened to her? So even Esau don't play about his money, man. What was Martha Stewart arrested for? Martha Stewart was arrested and convicted for lying to federal investigators and obstructing justice in connection with her sale of IM clone system stock in 2001. Now, for insider trading itself, though the investigation stemmed from it, she was found guilty of conspiracy, obstruction of an agency proceeding, and making false statements leading to a 5-month prison sentence in 2004. I thought it was tax evasion. So Wesley Snipes, tax invasion charge. Actor Wesley Snipes was convicted of misdemeanor tax offenses for failing to file income tax returns between 1999 and 2001, leading to a 3-year prison sentence and fines, though he avoided full tax evasion charges by arguing bad advice from anti-tax promoters rather than willful fraud, serving time from 2010 to still 3 years. He claimed the IRS was illegitimate and tried various defenses, but was ultimately found guilty of simply not filing, despite his efforts to fight the charges, which included appeals and attempts to settle his tax debt. So they'll come after your ass, man. Wesley Snipes loses $23.5 million tax case. Shit. You know what? I'll serve 3 years for $23.5 million. I'll do that. I'll sit in the joint for 3 years. Wesley Snipes loses $23.5 million tax case, offers IRS tiny 4% compromise. That's Jake for you, man. He's like, I'll give you 4%. This nigga wants fucking 50%. You have to hand it to Wesley Snipes for persistence. His various run-ins with the IRS haven't gone so well over the years, and he now has another tax case loss to count. His latest loss was in U.S. tax. This is 7 years old. Was in U.S. tax court, which sided with the IRS. It was part of his running feud over old IRS bills that are still valid, but the Snipes says he cannot pay. He offered a fraction, about $842,000, to wipe out $23.5 million. But the IRS said no. Next, Snipes argued that the IRS abused its discretion. His most famous tax case, of course, was his criminal trial. In fact, he was one of the more high-profile criminal tax defendants in recent memory, facing an all-out prosecution on multiple serious felony tax evasion counts. So they gave him multiple, damn. But Esau gets away with this shit all the time. 2nd Esdras 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So we're getting to the point where it's going to be all out chaos. Because Esau's going to try to come down even harder. You're going to try to stay rebellious even more. So we're coming into that time where that stability is going to be... How you going to be stable in a time like that? We know these things are coming. And the fact that these are what comes to mind when these things come to... is what I'm happy about. That precepts are coming to my mind. And so I don't have to... be like everybody else, Lord's will. But this is Romans 13:1. It says, be subject to government. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. So the Lord sets up men and puts them in position. Okay, and there's plenty of verses. Let's look in some cross references. Let's see what it says. Does it get Daniel 4 verse 17? No. It gives Daniel... Nope, Daniel 4 and 32. It don't give any precepts that I would have grabbed. Okay, but it's Daniel 4 verse 17 tells you that the Lord sets up men, and he set up over it the basis of men. So he set these people up. Whatever power's in power, he set them up to be like that. Psalm 78 goes into promotion. Psalm 78 verse, Psalm 75, I think I'm thinking about. Psalm 75 in verse 6, for promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but God is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. So that's where promotion comes from. And he set up Esau. Let me grab Daniel 4 verse 17. Daniel 4 and 17, this matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, which are the angels, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. So there's men, he rules in the kingdom of men. So there's someone above the top guy, and that's the Most High God. Okay, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. So he can set up the basis of men. Okay, which is the lowest form of man. He'll put him on top. And you are living in a society where he set up the most base man, which is Esau. 1 Samuel 2 and 8, he raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he have set the world upon them. So he will take a beggar from the dunghill, set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. So he'll put you on top. Okay? So when he says be subject to the higher powers, that's what you're supposed to do. Okay? Let me grab this in Ecclesiastes, the 8th chapter. Okay, Ecclesiastes 8 in verse 1. Who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. I counsel thee to keep the king's commandment, and that in regard of the oath of God. Be not hasty to go out of his sight, stand not in an evil thing, for he doeth whatsoever he pleaseth him. For the word of a king is, there is power, and who may say unto him, what doest thou? Whoso keepeth the commandment shall feel no evil thing, and a wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment. So basically, what this is saying is, okay, the king has power. You got to listen to him, right? But it also says that you got to keep the commandments, that you should feel no evil thing. Okay? So you got to have wisdom. Okay? A man's heart discerneth both time and judgment. So you got to know there comes a point where you got to obey the Lord rather than men, you know. But paying your taxes, just like it says in Matthew 22, render unto Caesar what is Caesar and render unto the Lord what is the Lord's. When it comes to taking the MOTB, that's where we draw the line. That's when, hey, take my head. So there is going to come a point where there's a cutoff point where you don't listen to them anymore. Okay? But it's not with taxes. Our victory is getting to the end. And if our end is cut short by you got to choose the Lord over the king's commandment, then, hey, you get the victory that way too. You always get the victory by keeping the commandments, man. But you got to know them. You got to be ready, man. Whatever it is, man. This is a battle. Okay? He wants you to lose. Like him, he wants you to be a loser. We already got the victory, so with victory, our mind is victory minded or kingdom minded. Okay, Ecclesiastes 8 verse 6, because to every purpose there is a time and judgment, therefore the misery of man is great upon him, for he knoweth not that which shall be, for who can tell him when it shall be? There is no man that have power over the spirit to retain the spirit, neither have the power in the day of death, and there is no discharge in that war, neither shall wickedness deliver those who are given to it. That's pretty much it. But then it goes into, but you listen to the king where it gets to a point where you have to obey the Lord more than him, especially but telling you when that time is when that MOTB is here. That's a filter, man. If you have a choice between death and that, you choose death. If you have the choice. As simple as that. Romans 13, verse 1 again, let every soul be subject to the higher powers, which is your government. For there is no power but of God, so the Lord sets them up, but he has them in power to do just what he needs them to do. The powers that are ordained of God. So Esau set up because he's ordained to be set up right now. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. So if you want to pay your taxes, you get caught up in right-wing propaganda, you're going to die. Okay? You got to obey the Lord, especially if you're so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American. You want to listen to them Proud Boy niggas, you're going to die. Okay? And yeah, it sucks, but guess what? You in slavery, man. What you think this is? Think you came here to relax and vacation? No. Baruch 1:3-1. O Lord Almighty God of Israel, the soul in anguish, the troubled spirit crieth unto thee. Hear, O Lord, and have mercy, for thou art merciful, and have pity upon us, because we have sinned before thee. For thou endurest forever, and we perish utterly. O Lord Almighty, thou God of Israel, hear now the prayers of the dead Israelites and of their children, which have sinned before thee, and not hearkened unto the voice of thee, their God, for the which cause these plagues cleave unto us. Remember not the iniquities of our forefathers, but think upon thy power in thy name now at this time. For thou art the Lord our God, and thee, O Lord, will we praise. And for this cause thou hast put thy fear in our hearts, to the intent that we should call upon thy name and praise thee in our captivity. For we have called to mind all the iniquity of our forefathers that sinned before thee. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquity of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. So we are here to be subject to payments. Okay, so that's paying your taxes. We're tributary to Esau, Edom, because he put us in slavery. Ultimately, the Lord put us in slavery for disobeying him. Romans 13:3. So this whole Babylon America is a prison camp for you Israelites. And we're hastening the day to be released. And the only one who has the power to do that is Yahweh Shai. Matter of fact, let's keep going. Romans 13:3. For the rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Will thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. So doing that which is good is obeying the Lord. Okay? For the rulers are not a terror to good works. Okay? They're there to pretty much keep things the way the Lord wants it to happen. You read Psalms, the 17th chapter, it's really the Lord's sword, so you really need to be afraid of the Lord. And that's where the judgment comes, because your lack of fear of the Lord. And what does he do? He allows Esau to cut you down. Romans 13:4. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. So the Lord uses him to execute judgment. These different police officers and some of these crimes you see, ultimately the Lord ordained it. Esau don't have power over life or death. He might threaten you on comment boards because he hates the word, but it's up to the Lord if he wants to allow that demon to actually get you. But we're not afraid because we're fighting. The Lord's fighting for us, you know. And we got examples of men who've been doing this a lot longer. And what has the Lord done in their walk? He's preserved them, and the word has still been going. He's still been using those same vessels. Why would he destroy a vessel like that if he's bringing many to righteousness with him? Why would he just? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's best that he keep them, because a lot of people, the laborers are few. So if the work is being done at the level he wants it on, why wouldn't he just continue to use that same vessel instead of constantly, let me train this guy up and train that guy up and train? No, that's why he got his elect. Okay, but these precepts, these scriptures can be used against you too. If you don't know the Bible, you would think they're going to be using this example here when the MOTB comes out. They're going to be trying to use your priests going to tell you this is what you should do, and they're going to mingle the scriptures because they don't know the scriptures, and you're going to believe them. And they're going to be telling you to take the MOTB, and telling you you got to be subject to the higher powers. So these scriptures can also cut you if you don't know, what they mean. Romans 13:5. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. Yeah, you breaking the law, you're going to expect to get arrested. You're going to expect, if you're selling drugs, you're going to have a spirit on you, that you can get caught any day. So for your conscience sake, just keep the law to the best of your ability and do the same with the Lord. Romans 13:6, keeping his laws, making sure he's happy and not breaking the laws of the land. Romans 13:6, for this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. So it says pay you tribute also. That's a commandment. Romans 13:6 means Christians must pay taxes because governing authorities are God's appointed ministers or servants dedicated to maintaining public order and justice, making tax payment a duty for conscience sake, honoring God's system, not just out of fear of punishment, in part of rendering what is due to leaders for their service. Paul emphasizes that this obligation is a core part of living righteously and submitting to God-ordained structures, even when disagreeing with government action. So you gotta. This is why our people get destroyed. That lady, she roused people up, and ultimately, that's not what the Lord wants you to do. Just like that man, he's rousing people up. Just like Bernie Sanders, rousing people up. If you don't understand the scriptures, these spirits will overtake you. These are some strong spirits that are out there, especially they know how to work on your mind. If you're not firm on Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, it can pull you into into getting judged at the end of the day. Because the Lord's about to use this sword, man. He about to come down with great wrath. Okay? And he's gonna do exactly, he's gonna put if you ain't got the wah, you ain't gonna be saved in these last days. Romans 13:7, render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. So, owe no man nothing, anything. You've been warned. We almost time anyways. This money's about to go digital anyways. You're not going to be able to pay your bills, taxes, or anything because you got to take the MOTB. You just have to endure it. Okay? But a lot of people, they covet things. They covet houses. They covet things of this world. They're not expecting the world to come. They don't want to hear what I'm talking about. They don't care about what's written in this book. And that's why they're going to die. As a matter of fact, what's this? At least 40 dead in fire at Swiss ski resort. I'll just talk
Tragedy as we look around the world. At least 40 people are dead. More than 100 others hurt after a fire ripped through a crowded bar inside a ski resort in Switzerland. Authorities believe most of the victims are young people. Neda Bashir has the latest, and we do want to warn you, some of these details may be disturbing.
What began as a night of celebration turned into a nightmare. As crowds rang in the new year, a deadly...
Saw that. 144. Just want to point that out.
Rang in the new year. A deadly fire tore through a packed bar in the luxury alpine resort of Crans, Montana in southern Switzerland. Swiss police say around
40 killed. When I read this earlier, they said they said a dozen killed. So the numbers are going up. Killed in a fire, bro. You know, that's... The Lord wasn't fooling around, man. Over 100 others hurt. What kind of fire? 3rd-degree burns, man. Some of these injuries you can't really heal from.
40 people were killed and over... Swiss police say around 40 people were killed and over 110 injured, many of them severely. Adding it will take several days to return bodies to families. The fire broke out just after 1:30 in the morning inside a bar called Le Constellation. 2 witnesses told CNN affiliate BFM TV it may have been caused by sparklers placed in champagne bottles.
People shouted, "Fire, fire," and at first we thought it was a joke. Then suddenly there was a very large cloud of black smoke. We could not breathe anymore. And in our heads, we knew we had to get out, but there was a crowd and we couldn't leave. So we tried to hide.
The bar is located in the heart of Crans, Montana, an exclusive resort town known for skiing, fine dining and nightlife. On Thursday morning, authorities closed the area to the public and declared a state of emergency.
And you know what? I was expecting all of this. There's a bunch of stuff on the news. I got another something. But, you know, just to show you that you want to refrain from celebrating holidays like this. If the Lord's dealing with you, you know, some people might go see their family, but it's something, you know, you going to, even then, you know, even then, man, you really want to refrain from these types of things. But if you do go, it's not that it's a sin, it's just that you want to be using wisdom, man. The Lord should be guiding you to know, like, man, judgment is going out. You got to discern what time that we're in. you know, and something like this, it might seem like random, you know, it's not. It's literally the Lord. Okay? The Lord sets these things up, man. He's tired of this shit. And ultimately, he's getting certain people. Out of all these people that were affected, there was a lot of people that weren't affected. But are they going to think that the Lord did that? No, they're not going to think about the Lord. Then that's why y'all get destroyed.
They added the investigation would look into whether safety standards were met. Swiss Confederation President Guy Parmelin.
It's always something carnal. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was a switch in the wall or, you know, I mean, that could happen, but ultimately it was the Lord. It was the Lord, man, that made the switch go out and appease him.
And described it as one of the worst tragedies to have faced his country. Saying on social media, quote, what should have been a happy occasion on the first day of the year in Crans, Montana.
First of all, it's not the first day of the year. This is why you don't follow the multitude to do evil, man. They consider not their ways, man, especially if you're the children of Israel.
Has turned into a tragic loss that touches the whole country and far beyond.
Ultimately, listen, you were sacrificed to a pagan god. You put yourself in that position to be sacrificed. Because just like a natural brute beast made to be taken and destroyed because you lack understanding.
Few could imagine the first day of 2026 would begin this way.
Few, that's right. A few, a remnant, the elect, they understand that these things are going to happen, especially on days like this, stupid-ass holidays. People got murdered. There was a situation on Christmas Day. A mother shot her son because she said he was disrespecting her on Christmas Day. Shot him. Okay? And guess what? That's what they get.
For a resort known for sweeping alpine views, authorities are now focused on finding answers and preventing another tragedy. Nada Bashir, CNN, in London.
You can't prevent it, man. There's no preventing it. The only thing that's going to prevent it is when your ass get hurt. When the Lord destroys this place. Ecclesiastes 39. Let me grab this real quick. In verse 20. Ecclesiastes 39 and verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sword strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. So he was appeased. The Lord was appeased by you getting put to death. I got one more. It says, woman leaving New Bedford church gathering killed in hit and run. 1 hour ago, Massachusetts woman was killed in a hit and run while leaving a church gathering just after midnight on New Year's Day. I told you. These harlot houses, you ain't safe. The Lord's not dealing with that.
The search is on tonight for a driver in New Bedford who hit and killed a woman who was walking out of church on New Year's Eve. As Brandon Truitt reports, the victim was with her family when she was hit.
Friends of this woman say they are devastated by this incident, taking this mother from her family as they were walking out of church. All of this happening just moments after the ball dropped. Tonight, a sobering start to the new year in New Bedford. Authorities say 33-year-old Nikolasa Venturokala was hit by an SUV while crossing Acushnet Avenue early Thursday morning. She was walking out of a church service with her family. Investigators say the impact threw her down the road, but the car kept going.
From a couple blocks away, you could hear screaming.
This woman doesn't want to be identified, but she was on her way home when she saw the commotion. She quickly spotted Kola lying in the middle of the street with a laceration to her head and injuries to her legs. She stayed by her side until paramedics arrived.
While they were working on her, I went over with the group of family and their community, and we just prayed. We just kept praying until they took her.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's a horrible, when I heard that it was a church service, it kind of gave me a gut shot.
Sergio Texera lives nearby and heard all of this happen. He says the Ave is one of the busiest streets in New Bedford.
And my car's gotten hit on Acushnet Avenue before, and so it's just one of those things where any given Saturday or weekend, you always worry about people on this street at night.
Whoever did it should do the right thing and
turn themselves in.
This certainly has this city talking and wrapping their arms around the family whose matriarch was ripped from them so suddenly, with family friends calling her a loving and positive force in this community.
Good woman, good family. She's working hard, to put the food on the table for everyone.
And police are still looking for this driver. There's a real desire for justice for this family. Police are asking anyone with information to give them a call. In New Bedford, Brandon Truitt, WBZ News.
Oh. Going to the harlot house wasn't enough.
Never ever sue the...
Okay, because the Lord's not dealing with that, man. Now, I don't know the reason why the Lord does what he does. I'm not saying that. But it tells you in Job 4:7. Remember, I pray thee, whoever perish being innocent, or where would a righteous cut off? So, hey, that tells you what you need to know. First of all, you ain't perishing being innocent. A lot of y'all wait till you're old, and then you want to repent, and then you're not really truly repenting when you go into these harlot houses. You go in there, you're not supposed to talk in the church, you do. You don't obey the Lord. You still eating pork. You celebrating Christmas, Easter. You celebrating New Year's Eve on Christmas Day in a church, claiming to serve the Lord's tired of that shit. Okay? So he said, you know what? I got this one right here. And that's what he did. Let me grab this in the book of Acts 7:48, and I'm going to end it on this. Going into Stephen. He got put to death, telling you about your history. Acts 7 and verse 48. Howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet. Heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will ye build me, saith the Lord, or what is the place of my rest? So the Lord's not dealing with temples made with hands, and he's not dealing with your harlot houses. He's not dealing with your false doctrines, your false pastors. He just killed a pastor a couple of days ago. I didn't even do a video on it. Young man. So I know he heard the truth, and he got shot. I think they shot him in his head. Imagine you're teaching the word, and somehow a bullet gets to you. Okay? So you need some divine protection for these things not to happen. All right? The Lord need to be really dealing with you. And it's going to be manifested in these last days. This year, next year. However, every day closer and closer we leading up to the time where you're going to see who the men of the Lord are, and you're going to see who's not. But I'm going to end it here. Lord's will, to edify and shalom.